We'll do a little vlog. I haven't done a vlog in a while, and this is just probably for YouTube as opposed to the BitChute Odyssey vlogs, because that's obviously more philosophical, etc. So yeah, that will have to wait. Again, like I have all my presentations, which I would do for the kind of societal control topics, still on my laptop. My laptop's now repaired, obviously, but yeah, now I have to download all of the Microsoft packages in order to re-access my my content that was unfinished, and I just refuse to pay for that. So I'm going to have to torrent that from somewhere, and that's another thing to do on the list. So that's why it's been kind of vloggy for a while on those channels. And yeah, with respect to coming back into the UK after 3.5 years, first impressions. Yeah, I mean, it's always, nice to go somewhere that you haven't visited at all or for a long time, because it's that contrast. It's exciting at first, but frankly, the reason I left the UK is I just find it quite stagnant. I think it's kind of like a massive bubble, and I think London especially is. I mean, I'm not a city person, and I really don't rate London in terms of kind of the culture, and it's a pretty place. It's nice and safe. It's very livable. Maybe not financially, but generally speaking, it is a nice place to, I guess, settle down for a number of years and have a bit of fun. But I don't think London is kind of the place to be. There's so many more interesting places in the world. I mean, even Sao Paulo might not be as aesthetically pleasing, but that's just one such example. If you're a city person, if you, I don't know, want to venture off the trail a little bit more, places in Pakistan are fantastic, and most of the places in the world have got more of a buzz going because they're not so saturated with kind of normative values, and that's kind of the problem with the UK and what we've seen openly in terms of the kind of political framework that's being applied. If you take Scotland, and I discussed this in the previous vlog recently, the new hate speech laws which are being implanted into society, whereby police are told to monitor stand-up comedians. You can now be prosecuted for pretty much anything under the guise of obviously protecting the public domain, but essentially hate speech is anything that opposes the status quo now, and you can be charged with that. And I think police arrest more people for hate crimes than they do for serious crimes. And in Germany, that's an official statistic. Recently, the police spent more time investigating so-called hate crimes than they did robberies and murders and rapes and all that kind of stuff. Partly because it's all a kind of systematic method by which to dissolve any political opposition, and again, make people pursue a kind of normative framework. Otherwise, they're punished for kind of thinking outside the box. Again, we saw that with COVID and all that kind of scenario, whereby if you don't adhere to the principles of the state, then you don't get welfare checks, you don't get even access to your own children. If you take Canada as one example, separated couples with shared custody, if they weren't pursuing vaccinations, or if they openly stated that they just disagreed with certain mandates online, people were having their children taken away from them by social services, who of course in essence actually govern your children in a scenario where couples are separated and have shared custody, because it's the lawyers that determine who gets that custody, right? It's kind of mandated by the local municipalities. So and again, we're seeing that everywhere in education in particular. And I think I've discussed before in prior vlogs, not too recently, but in the US, schools are allowed to prescribe children drugs without parental consent. So, for example, you could send your kid off to school on a Monday morning, and some doctor might decide that, your child's not behaving well, it has ADHD or something like that, and consequently that child comes back pilled up. Because, of course, the pharma industry is so exploitative, so prominent in kind of the lobbyist sphere, that they pretty much influence everything, along with defence contractors, etc. But anyway, I digress. Returning to the kind of what's been going on recently, I found out I did break my ankle, actually. So again, in the last vlog discussing the twist on the volcano in El Salvador, I didn't actually go to a hospital for that, but it was such a snap. You heard the ankle go, and I just suspected it was a fracture, because not having broken anything before, you assume a break is as bad as it really gets, and you'd imagine you wouldn't be able to walk at all on a broken ankle, but it turned out I had a broken ankle the entire time, and having been to the hospital here, because it was there was a kind of regression following a bit of hiking in the Lake District, where any extra weight essentially it kind of returns the ankle to that kind of stage of inflammation. And they said that the ankle was snapped, but now it's been the break itself is so smooth that it's been quite a while, and obviously I've been walking on it, so that would explain that. But unfortunately, it means that for hiking in the future, it's not going to be as possible, because it's always going to return to that, because it hasn't healed because there was no cast applied to it, which is my own fault, but it hasn't healed in the right way. So that's an interesting thing for the bike trip. But I've been assured that different muscles will be used. The ankle won't be used as much in the way that you kind of use it when you're doing uphill hikes and stuff like that. So it should be fine with respect to the bike trip. And that bike trip is due to commence by May 1st, but I'm actually waiting for a fresh passport at the moment, because I realised I only had a page left, so I had to quickly apply for one. And then because the whole system in this country, not especially this country, but large tracts of the Western world now, is so corrupt, that I sent off the same photo that's on my driving licence, which is a fresh driving licence from 3 weeks ago. So the DVLA accepted that photo. Not only did the DVLA accept that photo is the photo in my current passport. And they said that the passport photo, this photo, wasn't acceptable and didn't adhere to the parameters specified, because they now recommend that you use a specific company to purchase passport photographs. Of course, it's all a scam. This company, to get the contract in the first place, has to have some kind of governmental connection. So it's just this single company that now gives you a digital code, which you pay through the roof for. It's actually the same price for a digital photo than it is for a physical, which makes absolutely no sense. It's like £8 to £10, but you expect to pay £10, and then you have to implant that code from this one private company into the government's passport form. And then it takes 4 weeks now as a turnaround. But I've just been told that I have to have an interview to get a replacement passport, and this is my 5th passport. So now, as a British citizen, you have to get an interview in order to get it's almost like a permission slip to leave the country, because again, we're becoming so totalitarian that's almost the norm now. Imagine 30 years ago having to to wait not just 4 weeks, but to have an interview to leave your own country. It's absolutely insane. So it may well be that the 1st of May proves to be an early deadline. I don't quite make that, but I'm hoping for the best in that respect. What else has been going on? So visited the Lake District, very nice. Climbed Helvellyn, a nice little peak up there, and then went to Blackpool, cheapest pints in the UK, £1.80, and not even in a spoons, in an independent £1.80 a pint. And spoons up there is like £1.79. So it's fascinating to me that people live in London. Obviously, London has a lot to offer. It is kind of a place, as I said, that I think everyone should have a few years. But when you think of, okay, so people might be making 30% more for the same job in London, but then the house and the rent prices are so kind of extraordinary. They're so insane that people actually make less than they do in places like Manchester or pretty much anywhere outside the UK. I mean, in Wales, 6 years ago, I was paying £250 for an apartment on the water on Marine Terrace in Aberystwyth, £250 a month for an apartment on the ocean. You probably couldn't even get half a car parking space in the worst area of London for £250 a month. So you've got to question, like, what is it that people are doing with their lives? Like, of course it's nice and comfortable to be in certain places where everything is available, all the amenities are around you, but you're just restricting your outlook on life. And if everyone restricts their outlook on life and they have children, their children are inheriting that same disposition, and it's a continuous system whereby the government are just gaining a stranglehold on the population, because the population's outlook is so limited by this very standardised, routine-like way of living. I do encourage people to just kind of leave these kinds of places, and just if you find yourself too comfortable, and that's really the time to get up and go, because you're not really allowing for mental progression if you're kind of stagnating. But anyway, I guess we'll leave it there. It's come up to 10 minutes. I'll post this, and as I said, the bike trip should be coming up in a few weeks, and that's going to be a 2-year trip. So obviously there's going to be lots to see, and I'll have a few more cameras to set up and stuff for that. And updates should be posted just before the start. So there we go.